and welcome to our glorious Ashes of Creation June development update. We hope everyone is well and safe and has been having a wonderful month. On our front, it has been crazy. We've got a lot going on, and you better buckle in, strap up, because it's going to be a long one today. I hope everyone brought their snacks. I was warning people in the chat, so you've been warned.
It is going to be a long one. I mean, what are we thinking here? Probably at least an hour and a half, if not maybe two. Oh my god.
Depending on how many questions we answer after. So we'll see how it
Well,
goes.
let's
But
find
a
out.
lot of good
Let's find
information,
out.
a lot of new information, and updated information from old information. So keep that in mind as we're moving forward today. But to cover what we're going to be covering, we're going to go quick reminders. I'm going to try to be really quick about that. Freehold update. We'll do some art updates, which includes some new Nikuin awesomeness. I know folks have been asking about more dwarf stuff, and a studio update and Q&A. So
Nice.
first and foremost, we have our spotlight for our YouTube comment, which comes from Zash Welsh Guy and wants to know, with fishing, will we be able...
The audio fidelity.
Quick reminders. I'm going to try to be really quick about that. Freehold update. We'll do some art updates, which includes some new Nikuin awesomeness. I know folks have been asking about more dwarf stuff, and a studio update and Q&A. So first and foremost, we have our spotlight for our YouTube comment, which comes from Zash Welsh Guy and wants to know, with fishing, will we be able to use the fish we catch
That's a good
with the
question.
animal husbandry profession? Maybe have a freehold pond or a fish tank in the player home.
Yeah, this is something that we have ideas around and designs around. We haven't done any implementation or development for it yet, but the idea is that for certain types of fish or certain very rare kind of trophy-esque fish, you would be able, instead of using the material, to go through a process that might put it into things that are more cosmetic focused, like a fish tank or a pond on the freehold or something in the house. We definitely have some ideas around there. I think it's a super cool thing to kind of see something you've taken from the world and now that you've domesticated or put into your customizable space. So great question. It's definitely on the top of our minds. It's something that we're going to be exploring post Alpha 2.
Awesome, awesome. And then we've got Stephen will be on the Ashen Forge over on twitch.tv/theoryforge on July 9th. I think that they're going to be putting up a thread over on our forums as well to gather some questions from the community after the live stream. So definitely check that out. Stephen will probably answer a lot of questions. They always have a good time and ask a lot of good things. And of course, we also have our dev discussion about role-playing up. We would love for you to tell us what systems and features make role-playing fun, what features help remove hurdles and barriers. So if you have thoughts on that, please feel free to pop on over to our forums and give us your thoughts. And of course, we also have our cosmetic swap over happening for the Songs of the Sea on July 12th, 2023. And I know that we had previously said that the packages will be changing coming up in the future, but Stephen was giving y'all a long warning. It's going to be a bit before that changeover happens, but we will give you guys ample notice with an FAQ on details of what that will entail. And with that, we will move on to Freehold goodness. So if you want to do any prefaces here, Stephen?
Yes, let me give you guys a bit of a preface. So we decided to take a little bit of a different approach with this presentation. The first half of this is going to be really focused in on detailing out some of the mechanics of the Freehold system. A part of it is going to be reiterating what you guys have known for a while, but another part of it's going to be giving some updates around these designs and some changes that have occurred in anticipation of the rollout for Freeholds during Alpha 2. So give us your feedback on whether or not you like the style of this approach for the presentation. The first, like I said, half of it is going to be us kind of going through slides and showing some of the tech trees of the buildings and some of the purposes of these different systems on the Freehold. And then after that, we're going to have a little bit of gameplay in the world showcasing the Freeholds. I believe Bucky has a Freehold. We're going to be going through doing some farming on it, some live interactions with some of the livestock. We're also going to be showing off as an ancillary
Been streaming all morning.
overview some of the changes that we had talked about previously to the inventory system. We're going to show some of the storage off. We're going to show off a couple of new mounts and some of the mining areas. But it's something that really the focus is giving you guys expectations around how freeholds have changed coming towards Alpha 2. So hopefully you guys
Okay.
enjoy. This is going to be a long one. It's about an hour-long video.
Yeah, over an hour long.
Yes.
So enjoy, and we'll see you afterwards.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another, I was about to say day in Vera, but actually we are going to be doing something a little bit different than what you are accustomed to. And the reason for this is because we are getting a little bit into the systems and the mechanics of how freeholds work. And it's going to be a two-part presentation. The first of which you're seeing now is going to be in the format of a more PowerPoint-oriented kind of presentation, talking about the mechanics, looking at skill trees. And then the second part is going to be in-game, where we're going to take a look at some of the systems like farming, livestock, housing, and storage. But I am joined today by three absolutely glorious developers on the Ashes of Creation dev team. Our designers, first of which is a regular appearing guest, Mr. Bucky. How you doing, Bucky?
Hey, how's it going? I'm Bucky, aka Dr. Bucky. I'm a
Dr.
game designer
Bucky.
here at Intrepid, helping out some of the arts and ship designs, and also some of the systems related to nodes and freeholds, and also a little bit of combat design.
Yes, and we also have with us joining, I believe for the first time, one of our glorious designers, Mike.
Hello, my name is Mike. I'm a senior systems designer here at Intrepid. It's really nice to be here. Yeah,
Yes.
I deal with economy and itemization, and this is the first time on live stream. I'm really excited. Yeah.
Yes, we're excited to have you as well. And we have Corey also. Corey, I believe you were on our December live stream that we did.
Yeah, I was there for the gathering, and yeah, I'm Corey. I'm a technical designer, and I focus mostly on artisanship and economy. Jump around to other things, but those are my main things.
Yes. Now we have an exciting topic today, which is, I think, near and dear to a lot of players' hearts, and that is freeholds. And what are we looking at here? Tell me a little bit of what this concept art is. We've obviously talked a lot about freeholds in the past as a system since back in 2017 when we first were discussing Ashes of Creation with the community during Kickstarter and what the intent of freeholds are. But what are we looking at? And tell me a little bit about the system overall.
So yeah, we got a little example set of a freehold here, right? We got on the left, we have some farmable animals, some livestock here in pens, and then we have in the middle there's a bunch of crop rows of farmable crops the players can have, and then there's a couple different examples of different kind of freehold buildings you can have on your freehold. One of which is the house on the right, and then some other freehold buildings as well. Like it looks like there's a mill in the back there as well.
Yeah, and for those of you who have just been kind of tuning into Ashes of Creation's development or don't follow along in game development or other projects, this type of concept art is really important, especially for the artists on the team who are helping develop and create the world around you. It kind of sets the mood for what we're trying to accomplish when environment art starts creating these assets and starts creating these environments, right? What's the type of visuals we're looking to achieve?
Yeah, it really helps us, right? Like we can only do so much on paper, and we have to start kind of visualizing the ideas, right? So kind of coming up with the space and what's going to fit and how's it going to look and all of these things that we want to coexist in this space, right? Like concept lets us know whether or not it's even possible. So looking at stuff like this is super exciting.
Yes. And as I said, we have a few updates to the system that we're going to go over in detail through this PowerPoint. But to start us off, let us ask a question. What exactly are freeholds? Freeholds obviously have a lot of different purposes within Ashes of Creation. However, three main purposes that freeholds provide are allowing really players an opportunity to kind of express themselves in a highly customizable fashion, right? So these are plots of lands that you have access to. You can build different types of buildings on. You can create housing and place furniture, and you can grow livestock, and you can just own this piece of land. And one unique thing about allowing the players to kind of express themselves through this manner in Ashes of Creation is that it's in the open world. So it's not an instance or a phase location that you are kind of customizing. You're actually leaving a mark on the world that's representative of you as a player, as a character, something you can role play. But importantly enough, when it comes to the economy, freeholds also provide the highest level of processing that's available. And processing is one of three primary branches that exist within the artisanship system. Processing is kind of the intermediary step between what you gather in the wild and what you eventually craft via recipes. The other primary purpose of freeholds is that they allow you to offer certain types of business services, right? Because we don't just want to make freeholds delegated to the individual owner. We want it to have capabilities to kind of interact with other players as they're walking past your freehold, as they're going to these hunting grounds and participating in quests or events that might be existing around. And that means that location matters for the freehold because it's important to the business. Have you guys ever, Corey, Bucky, Mike, have you guys ever played a game that's had a system as intricate as freeholds are in an MMO? Talk to me a little bit about your experiences.
There are housing systems in other MMOs, right? But but it's not as much ambitious of projects that we're trying to accomplish here.
Right.
There's always, like putting some furnitures, putting some cosmetic stuff that's on the freehold to look nice, but like we're trying to accomplish three major pillars, which is, looking unique, making impact in the economy, and I really love the part that we're trying to make a footprint onto the real world, that you are actually owning a piece of land in an MMO, and I think that's really cool.
I think it's super cool too. I've played games obviously that have housing systems, and they sometimes delegate, those housing locations to very specific areas that are off the beaten path and, aren't necessarily fully integrated into the rest of the world or certain environments and areas that players like to play in. And one thing that I like that we're achieving with the freehold system is really moving that into the world that players are a part of and doing things in. Here we're kind of, looking at a layout. And talk to me a little bit, Bucky, about, these different aspects of the types of buildings that you can place and the things that you can do on the freehold that we see here.
Yeah, for sure. Players will have a lot of freedom in what they choose to outfit their freehold with, and kind of like what you were talking about before. And in other games we've seen different housing systems where it's more kind of like plot based, and you're kind of locked into specific places for buildings and stuff. But in ours, it's going to be, you'll have a lot more freedom in where those buildings go, which buildings you choose, how many buildings you even want, if you want to just sacrifice maybe some building space for additional farming space. So players will have a lot of opportunity to customize the way their freehold looks and operates.
Yeah. Absolutely cool. I see that there is a shed that's listed there. Is that shed? Do we talk about the shed a little bit later in the presentation?
Yeah, we can touch on that later, I think.
Okay. Cool. All right. So you're obviously asking yourself, how do I own a freehold? Bucky, do you want to talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. So it's kind of a multi-step process, but the first thing you'll have to do is you'll have to complete a quest to unlock the ability to even acquire the freehold permit. So once you do that quest line, you'll be able to go to the node and bid on an available freehold permit. If you're able to win the permit... Oh, sorry.
And real quick, Bucky, so the purpose of that quest is, these nodes aren't just going to grant the ability to own land within their zone of influence to anybody, right?
Exactly.
And so the quest is kind of a method by which the node gets to vet both the intent of the player who's attempting to own this parcel of land, but also whether or not they are up to the chops of actually owning and servicing a freehold, because it takes a lot to service these freeholds.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. So talk to us a little bit about these parcels. Like, how do they exist around the node?
Yeah, so basically there'll be a variety of predetermined parcels of land in each node's zone of influence. And once players acquire their freehold permit, they'll be able to lay claim to any available parcel in the issuing node's region. So and by region we mean that any any node's region is the total combined territory of a node and all of its vassal nodes. So if you acquire a freehold permit in the metropolis of a huge region, almost 20% of the map, right? You'll be able to lay a claim to an available parcel anywhere within that region. So it gives you a lot of freedom if you're able to acquire the permit from a metropolis.
Yeah, now this is one of the first changes for those of you in our core audience who have been following development for a period of time now. You will know that because we are in active development, everything that relates to the design of the game is available to be iterated upon and changed. And so, as I said at the start of this, you're going to be seeing a little bit of changes to the systems, and we'll eventually show you here in game some of those systems. But you're going to see a little bit of change, and this is one of the first one, is that these are predetermined locations that exist around the node or under its vassal structure that you will have the ability to bid on. And to give you kind of a sense there, this allows us to customize a bit of those predetermined parcels, like a Sherwood Forest type of example, or the hills of
Verdant Glen or something.
Thank
right?
you, exactly. Thank you. Essentially, letting us kind of customize that, and then when you've taken the permit for that parcel, then you get to go and place your freehold plot out in that section of that area of the world, right? And nodes will have many parcels by which they are able to sell permits to, and it will be on a auction basis. So talk to us a little bit about that permit and what it looks like to lay that down, Bucky.
Sure, yeah. So it'll basically be an item in your bag, and once you get to your parcel, you claim that piece of land, and then once it's claimed, you'll be able to use the item to go into top-down view and lay out actually exactly where your freehold will go on that parcel of land. And you'll have a lot of freedom, so a lot of that will be going through, looking at your whole area of land you now own, claim to, and then deciding where the best spot to put your freehold in there would be.
Awesome, and having this type of layout makes it so that in the world, when we talk about the visual fidelity and the kind of freehold density that might exist out in these open areas, we don't want it to be where you're running through the world and at every glance you see someone's freehold, right?
Exactly.
And what this allows us to kind of do is partition those spaces out so that there's a minimum distance essentially between the different freeholds.
Yeah, and there'll be places like where you won't be able to put a freehold even, right? Like a point of interest or roads or, the dungeon area. So the parcels will kind of be mapped around those areas as well.
Awesome. Very cool.
I also want to point out
Yeah.
the concept art of this piece is vastly different than what we showed earlier, so which kind of gives you the freedom of the placement of what you can do. This is like way more farming farming aesthetics
Industry.
where the gatherable are a whole bunch in the middle, and then there's like a storage mill kind of thing in the middle. So that's how much freedom that we want to offer players, how customizable a freehold can be.
Yeah, I love it. It's super cool. It's like we said, one of the first and most important aspects of the freehold system is that it's giving the players that level of customization to help them represent their identity, the identity of their character, right? Now, obviously, the freehold would not be a freehold without a house. That's the most important aspect of the freehold system. It's also what is the first necessary thing that you must build. Talk to us a little bit about housing.
Yeah, so as you can see here, we got some examples of the different sizes of houses you might be able to have on your freehold. And the first, like you said, the first building you need to build on the freehold is a house, and then once you do that, you're able to build other buildings like the different artisanship buildings or businesses we'll get to later.
And now before that house is present, what's on the freehold?
It's just an empty plot of land. All you have will be the little storage shed that gives you the base storage to be able to bring materials to your freehold and then make your construction.
Nice, awesome.
So
basically, as you acquire that house blueprint, you go and you preview the location of the house blueprint on the piece of land, and when you lay down the construction site, you're expected to bring materials through the caravan system or through the mule system, or even individually if you want to take many trips, to the location of the shed, and then deposit within that shed's storage. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah, that's how it works.
Cool.
And then
And
once
what
you do
happens
that,
if
you'll
I
be able to.
want to? No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, once you do that, you'll be able to initiate the construction and complete the house, and then proceed with your other thing.
Very cool. And so you were talking a little bit about the housing sizes, right? Small, medium, and large. These actually have mechanical influences around the design of the Freehold system. Talk to us a little bit about what that size controls.
Yeah, well, one of the main things it'll control is your furniture allotment. So a small house, for example, might only be able to place, 100 furniture items, whereas a medium or large house would be able to place many more. And so that's kind of a balancing factor for players in determining if they want to have a larger house or have a smaller house and have more farmland, whereas they're sacrificing furniture then for that.
Got it. So space actually matters here. And when you talk about, that furniture having a functional benefit to the player, Corey, what are some examples of that, furniture system? I know we've talked in the past about some of these, but talk to me a little bit about the importance of having that furniture and how that furniture kind of gets placed. Can it be placed anywhere? Is it going to be placed on top of each other? Tell us a little bit about the furniture.
Yeah, placing the furniture is like one of the most fun, at least for me, parts of customizing, your place or your land, right? Like that's where you can really kind of express yourself and, oh, this looks like a good place to have a dining room. Oh, this looks like a good place to put my bed. Maybe this is looking really cozy. I'd like to do my cooking in here. I can place down a cooking station, right? So the other point too is that like not all furniture is just cosmetic, right? There could be functional furniture, and we're not talking just a chair that you can interact with and sit down with, but there might be something along the lines of furniture that gives you buffs or bolsters up some consumables that you may have, right? Like so there is more to the space that the house gives you to place the furniture, because that might allow you to get more function out of said furniture. So there's some thought that goes into whether or not you want more furniture space or less furniture space, more farmland, less farmland. It's pretty fun.
Absolutely. I love it when the
Interesting.
furniture actually has a purpose, right? Outside of just the visual appearance and the aesthetic of the home, but is something that, players are called to interact with because it provides a benefit in the game as well. Now, housing, of course, wouldn't be housing without the ability to customize that appearance. And you'll see here a few different examples of housing that's representative of at least 8 of the 9 different races. You'll notice that the Talnar aren't represented here, but they will be represented in the future. But the blueprint that we talked about earlier, when you acquire this blueprint, talk to me a little bit, Mike, about that process. Where do you kind of acquire these blueprints? What are the multiple ways that you can get them, essentially?
So a blueprint, like the basic ones, could be sold at a node, at a vendor, something similar to what a node is racial influences. So if it's a Kalar node, you should be able to buy a Kalar house. But it's interesting that we tie this system to a blueprint, because we can do so much more itemization portion of it. So we can drop it from a boss, we can make it from a scribe can write a blueprint that is very specific or unique
Scribe,
look.
okay.
And if you went to a Kalar node, maybe they'll sell a recipe to write a medium Kalar house, and if you go to a Renkai one, they'll just sell you a blueprint for a large Renkai house, right? So there is that acquisition of like blueprint collecting, and then you can sell that to other players when you.
I think my favorite out of this is Renkai. Renkai. I'm a green fan, so this is my weakness. That's okay. I think Renkai is my favorite.
Acquire unique housing blueprint from a boss, for example, right?
Oh yeah, that's super cool. I like the market implications that has, where you essentially can get these uniquely acquired blueprints, and then you can trade and sell them to other players who might not have had the same opportunity to acquire them that you had.
Sure.
And in addition to that, we have obviously cosmetics that we have sold as part of different packs throughout the past, our pre-order system. Those cosmetics are split into 3 primary categories: housing, artisanship, and business. And we will have a breakdown that we're going to be releasing of the cosmetics that have come previously and which categories they exist in. But players will have the option to override the appearance of a blueprint that exists within one of those categories with an associated cosmetic skin. And, that is obviously not just something that can be purchased through the pre-order system, but also can be achieved in game as well, are cosmetics that can be applied to specific building types. And we don't get as granular where, let's say, you might have a shrine cosmetic and you have, let's say, a blacksmith building, that you wouldn't be able to apply the shrine to the blacksmith building. If the shrine exists in the artisanship lane, you can apply it to any artisanship type building, but not to a house or a business. So
Okay.
giving a little bit of additional context there. So what are businesses, you might ask, after hearing that category? Businesses serve a specific function. Mike, do you want us to talk to us a little bit about businesses?
Business building is a category where we wanted to kind of branch out of just artisanship buildings, right? So things like taverns, things like market kind of thing, where you can install a player stall
Cool.
so other people can come and visit your freehold. And
Businesses. Businesses.
buy things
That's
that's
crazy.
unique to tie to you, or other services like taverns where you could sell a food buff that's unique to your tavern, or something that you can kind of invest and then build so you can have a service building that's near to a POI that's really populated, so you can help players to, maybe gain more XP buff, things like that. And this is the perfect place where we can express that and then allow players to customize their freehold even more. We wanted to branch out from artisanship, just only that, and then have more options for it.
Very cool. I love it. I love the idea of not just the business as a whole and how it relates to kind of other players and their ability to kind of traverse the world and see what you've accomplished, but allowing players to customize the offerings that the business is capable of providing based on what they're creating as an artisanship member, or even what they can acquire from other players to offer through their business as well. And one additional note here is that freeholds are meant to be a part of the family system, meaning that to utilize the benefits the freehold and the services and mechanics that the freehold provides, it is very conducive to be part of a family with multiple members who are capable of interfacing with this. And because of that, systems like the business system allow for certain permissions to be granted to administer the business functions, and that includes things like setting prices and setting types of sellables that are, or services that are capable of being sold through the business.
Yeah, it's
Very
also a great mention there too, is that the fact that freeholds, there's not going to be a ton of parcels all over the world. It might not be feasible for every player to get one, but even if you're if you can be a family member and you have a whole family owning a freehold together, it'll allow many more players to see the system and partake in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that aspect of the freeholds. Now, speaking of a tavern, and we've obviously talked in the past about having upgrades available for these types of buildings. Let's use this tavern as an example of the types of upgrades that are possible. Talk me through this, what we're looking at here, this tree upgrade path.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So this is something I'm super excited about. This is this is an idea that surfaced through another system that I'm sure we'll get to see in the future, right? And it was one of those like, oh well, that's fun. Like, why can't we have that? And it just sort of played out perfectly that buildings could have upgrade paths to make them better or worse or more specific in a certain lane of specialization, based on like how you're trying to set up your freehold, right? So the idea is you place down the building, and as you become more proficient in a thing, in the case of artisanship, or as you work within the business building, you could build up the building to be better at some things than others. So what we're looking at here is just kind of an example of that, right? Like we have this tavern, we placed it down, And we're really focused on wanting people to come by here and gain extra experience or rested experience, because it's maybe our freehold's really close to a nice hunting spot. So we'll upgrade our tavern to have these upgraded feather beds, to give players that bonus, right? And all of the things that you just went over, Stephen, about being
Sweet.
able to set the permissions and
cool.
decide who you want this to apply to, how expensive it should be, right? You could be that guy that's got the tavern that's helpful to the guild. You could be the person where people like to stop by and hang out for a bit, get the rested experience and some food
Yes.
buffs before they go out hunting, right? And this allows people to have their freeholds next to each other and have their own niches of things that they offer to themselves, to the people that they play with, or to the public. So
Absolutely cool. Yeah,
That's
I
cool.
love that. And to give kind of a primer here, we're looking at specifically this upgrade to the tavern type business, which includes the ability to offer beds to weary travelers, right? And beds have a specific functionality. We were talking previously about furniture's offering in-game mechanics. One of those functionalities that beds provide is a rested experience buff that can be applied. This is obviously going to be kind of at the top tier of what travelers can expect to utilize at taverns when it comes to these beds. That's important because one other aspect of the freeholds is that freeholds are a privilege, not a right, meaning that there is a limited number of freeholds that will be available within the game world. And that's a very important aspect of this particular feature. And remember that housing exists within 3 different types. Freeholds are just one of those types of housings. Housing also exists as static in node versions as well as instanced, and there's also an additional feature that we haven't, I believe, discussed before, which is the inn. And the inn can service as a temporary living space that doesn't have restriction on the quantity, but has a soft ceiling when it comes to the citizenship dues that might be accrued at a node. So if you didn't own a freehold out in a location or hunting ground where you would be participating in some type of adventuring or quest, and you see a tavern with a bed available, you may want to make a stop there and utilize the bed so that when you go out to the nearby hunting ground, you get that rested experience. And that's an important aspect of this. This is very cool. I love the aspect of
don't
the
know
upgrade
agree with
paths
that,
and being
but okay.
able to specialize in the specific types of buildings that you construct. Now, let's say, for example, in this situation, I've constructed a tavern, and I have spec'd into this tier 2 branch of the feathered beds. If I wanted to have the opposite direction in the technology branch here, how would I be able to service that? Would I have to stand up another tavern and then spec into that branch there?
well, technically you'd have that option, right? You could repurpose the current tavern that you have, or you could build yourself another tavern if you're
Nice.
willing to give up the space and do more.
Absolutely cool. That's awesome. That's awesome. And remember, one of the go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
I just want to say there's a key point of real estate in the freehold. There is limited amount of space, right? It's really
Yes.
up to the player to give that choice. Like, is this additional buffs on a new tavern building worth what I'm giving up for another building, right? Like, that's a very interesting take that players needs to make to make freeholds efficient.
Right. Exactly. And just to remind you guys again, these are the systems we will be testing in Alpha 2, and it's important that you guys provide feedback across these types of systems. Tell us what you like, what you think could be done better, and as you play test them in Alpha 2, and as you watch other players play test these systems, afterwards, that is going to be our opportunity to take the feedback and iterate on the system. So it's important to kind of focus in on these details. Now, outside of businesses, let's talk a little bit about artisanship, and more specifically, processing as it exists within the freeholds, and how the freehold ties into the artisanship as a whole. Corey.
Yeah, so we talked about the 3 lanes of the buildings, right? And artisanship is one of them. So the way that we're sort of tying that in is that each crafting and processing profession will have a building associated with it, right? So before you can place any sort of stations down that are associated with that crafting or processing profession, you'll have to construct your building. And once the building is constructed, right, it has that similar tech tree thing going on, right? So you can spec it in the direction that you'd like it to go, and maybe that synergizes or balances out the way that you're speccing your profession. Yeah, it gives you access to placing stations. It gives you access to placing more stations. And then we also have some benefits that are conferred by the building itself to all of the things related on the freehold. So let's say there's some sort of weaponsmithing bonus given by a weaponsmithing building. That would mean that your weaponsmithing stations on your freehold would incur that bonus. So
very cool. Yeah, I really like the aspect of, some games take a direction that departs a bit from realism, and I think ultimately the end goal of any system that you implement into a game is to have fun, right? Is that gameplay loop there fun? And I feel personally, and this is just a completely subjective opinion, but I feel personally when you can achieve a high degree of fun and also achieve a high degree of realism in the process, that's the type of MMO experience I personally enjoy a lot. And I think that with this freehold system and emulating that realistic kind of process of what processing looks like, and we're going to get into a little bit of detail on that about how these processing stations work that are afforded through the processing buildings that you can construct. I just think that's something that's really cool. It gets me immersed. It gets me kind of the suspension of disbelief is really there, and I'm just enamored by what that play experience is.
Yeah, I totally agree. As a big time like factory sim player, I love setting up these processing chains of raw resources to process to craft. I feel like we're going at a really fun level for players that are going to enjoy going out in the world gathering, taking those raw resources, their freehold to be processed, and then taking that to the node to do the highest level crafting, right? That's just a really fun and engaging loop. I think
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm very excited about it as well. I'm a pretty crafting artisanship focused player myself, and I appreciate depth. I appreciate fun, and I appreciate complexity to a limit, right? So this is stuff for me to think about as a player. I have my own space. I get to manage that space. I get to decide, what I want to do with it. I get to decide how I want it to synergize with the professions I've chosen. I can make a name for myself. I can make social connections by the way that I express myself as whatever profession I'm into. And Freehold is
really love the addition of the fuel and kind of
in the state a journeyman level.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, speaking of processing, talk to us a little bit about the process of processing.
Yeah, we'll do. So processing, each processing profession will have 4 stations, and the stations will come online as you progress through the profession. Each one of those stations will make goods that are immediately useful to the economy, to crafters, to other processors, and each processing station will build on itself into the other stations, right? So you'll end up kind of at the end, if you do end up going all the way to master or grandmaster, being able to kind of circle between the stations and make different stuff depending on what you want to make. So in addition to using kind of resources in your recipes, we also want to use fuel as a way to run your station.
Yeah, that's super cool. The fuel is I think an awesome kind of talking a little bit about again that realistic kind of process. I really love the addition of the fuel and kind of the complexity as that fuel interacts with the type of processed good that you're creating. I think that's a really cool system.
Yeah, it's like players are. I feel like players are definitely used to that. With for example, iron ore. For example, you'd expect that to require some coal, some wood pellets, right, to complete that recipe. But even I think that's just gonna be something where we have core to processing, where any recipe you'll do is going to require some level of fuel. So even at a sawmill, right, processing your lumber, you will also require fuel to run, and that's kind of going to be something players will learn what are good fuels, what resources can work as a fuel, and what's the meta there.
Yeah, definitely getting dialed in with the economy and understanding, what's the price efficiency of using, wood chips versus coal for, a particular recipe, and kind of looking at what your returns are based on those decisions is just like, that's so cool that you even get to think about any of those things, right? And then just within the fuel
is what makes a lot of these systems compelling, right, to a degree. So let's talk a little bit about the depth and progression when it comes to the lumber mill. This is an example of an artisanship building, specifically a processing building. Corey, talk to me a little bit about what we're looking at here.
Yeah, so this is a example similar to what we were looking at with the tavern, but sort of following a lumber mill, right? Like players will need to place a lumber mill to advance in their lumber milling
Jesus
profession.
Christ.
And you'll be able to kind of spec it based on what you want to focus on as a lumber miller. So what we're looking at here is this arcane golem, and it allows you to process. Process jobs reducing resource, and the fuel and gold cost of processing is dropped by 20%, right? So this one's sort of focusing on cost and efficiency, and there might be other lanes or other particular skills that you can pick up that might focus on more yield, maybe rarity procs, stuff like that, right? So what's really interesting is that you can kind of take these trees and apply it to your skill tree in your profession, and sort of balance or hyper focus, or fill in the gaps that you're missing as you progress.
Yeah, and as you can see, the Arcane Golem is kind of like the final, like ultimate end talent at this specific skill tree. And so you can see on the bottom left, there's already a couple different active upgrades that are already applying bonuses to all the stations on the Freehold that are related to the lumber mill. So you see we have double saw, improved permit, gear system, station maintenance, stuff like that. So it'll be a kind of a culmination. Once you fully spec out your building, it'll have a variety of benefits it'll be adding to those stations.
And as you kind of spec into these specific types of upgrades, the building itself manifests props and attachments to it that represent these different upgrade paths. So it's a really kind of cool thing to see exist kind of on the Freehold. It gives also indication to the other players as to what specializations you focused on.
Yeah, definitely. Like that same, we're hoping to get that same feeling where you walk by that person and you're like, holy shit, that's that sword.
Yes.
You could walk by someone's tavern and be like, oh, they got the bar in the window. Like I can just roll up there and get myself a quick snack and a drink, and head on out to the hunting grounds. Or they went down a certain path for the lumber mill upgrade, and they know that this is probably the processor that you want to reach out to for all of your wood needs.
Yes, absolutely. Well, so guys, as we said, this was a little bit of an experiment, kind of prefacing this particular system, the Freehold system, before we get in game and take a look. Bucky, I think you have a Freehold somewhere in the Riverlands, perhaps by some interesting mining options that we're going to take a look at now. Hopefully we don't get killed on the way. But give us your feedback on what you enjoyed or thought could have been done better about this PowerPoint kind of presentation of the system, so that we get a little bit more nitty-gritty details of this. And we're going to do some Q&A after the gameplay. But right now, let's talk a little bit about and go in game and take a look at some farming. Let's take a look at the livestock and those interactions, because I know that those two specific interactions on Freeholds is near and dear to a lot of different players' hearts. And then in addition, there's going to be a little bit of discussion about our inventory management system. I've told you a little bit in the past that we have gone with a kind of Tetris-styled inventory when it comes to materials and raw gatherables. So we're
Okay.
going to take a look, the first iteration of that. Of course, everything here is a work in progress. We are still active in development towards Alpha 2. So take everything you see with a grain of salt, but obviously participate on our forums, on social media channels, here in Twitch, on the things you're liking in what you've seen and what you would like to see done differently. One other thing I think we're going to take a look at when we get in there is some of the housing, some of the furniture, interacting with some of that furniture as well. You might even get a look at a new little mount. But let's switch over to in-game, and we will see you guys in just a second. Hello, everyone, and we find ourselves now in the world of Vera once again. And Bucky, I think you were talking a little bit about a freehold that you have nearby in the Riverlands here, where we're going to perhaps participate in some of your... What do you got on that freehold? What are you doing over there?
So we got a lot of farming stuff mainly is what we're focusing on, but we also have a artisan building as well.
Oh,
as a
nice.
forge station because we got some good mining opportunities out here.
Okay,
So-
very cool. And I see you kind of are close to this kind of these ruins with your freehold, I guess. Is there any happening spots around this area for you guys?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we got some mob packs around here. Players are coming through here a lot to,
Ooh.
obviously get the this nice resource here. We got some alacanite.
Is that why you formed your freehold near this precious resource? Talk to me a little bit about this resource, Corey and or Mike.
Oh yeah, that's so this is halcyanite. It's a kind of a mid-tier journeyman a gem, and yeah, it's just got sort of something you would use in weapons and for decorations,
Nice.
jewelry. So it's pretty sought after for a lot of crafts. So it's pretty valuable.
I love just its look. I mean, it adds a really kind of magical blues to this area. Wow, this is a beautiful... Now, Bucky, I know why you made your freehold here. This is a beautiful view.
Yep, just another beautiful day in Vera.
Oh my gosh. Do you ever get, like, afraid of heights here? I mean, this is kind of crazy. I think
Not too
actually
bad.
I might have something that could help you with this. Hold on, let me see. I can just bring it up here, and then if you ever need to use it one day, feel free to. You're more than welcome.
Oh yes, beautiful, perfect. Oh, it's
Yeah.
even on theme for the fall weather.
I know, exactly. It's a Drake of the Canopy.
Perfect.
Yeah, if you ever want to take him for a spin, just let me know.
Okay.
All right, but yeah, there you go. Actually, I'll put him away. He's kind of
Yeah,
afraid
he's-
of heights himself.
Oh,
So I can mine this. So I've maxed out my artisanship levels through a little bit of a cheat, but if you have the tools, and oops, do I have the tools? Okay, guys, you're seeing a little bit of a preview of some of the work in progress UI with the artisanship windows, and obviously you have a number of tools here that are possible. This UI, of course, is getting completely revamped. This is just kind of the wireframing for it. But talk to me a little bit about the tool setup. Why is it important to have these kind of tools? How do tools aid you in your gathering adventures?
Yeah, so each gathering profession will have 3 tools. The tools kind of come online as you progress through the profession, and the different resource types for each one of the profession may require different tools. So you basically want to carry around the right tool for the job, and tools along with artisanship gear will have stats on it. So you can itemize towards how you want to gather, how fast you want to gather. Yeah.
Oh, it looks great. I love the the destruction of the actual, like, is it halcyanite? Halcanite? What is
Althionite.
Halcanite.
Yeah, halcyanite. Yeah, I mean,
Nice.
we sort of set the precedent with the trees, right? So we're trying to get similar feelings that the trees bring with our other gatherables.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
looking great.
Now, where is your freehold
It's just over this hill here, off to the left of the path. I think you might be able to see
You
my
kinda see it, yeah.
the house there with the chimney smoke as well.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, off there, see it?
Yeah, that looks good. How do we? Let's get over there a little bit faster. Maybe we can.
Oh yeah.
What do we got? Oh, I don't think people have seen the Lightfoot yet.
Very nice.
Let's bring him out. Oh, look at him. How cool is that? Oh, he looks so good.
It does look good.
I love the eyes.
Yeah, it looks good.
Super cool. Do we know who did this one? Was this Jinsey?
I think it
I
was
believe it was a
but-
Jinsey, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. This guy's fast.
Yeah, it's high speed.
It is a rabbit after all, you know.
It's so cool. Wait, we got to slow it down a little bit. I can't approach at such fast pace to your freehold. That would be disrespectful. I apologize.
Yes,
Here we
thank
go.
you. Don't
That's-
trample my plants, please. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. This is great.
The horde of rabbits.
So, what have you geared? It looks like, I mean, you don't have a lot of buildings on the freehold for yours, Bucky. Is that because you're kind of trying to utilize the land for farming and I know, of course, you are Dr. Bucky, so the animal husbandry system and like
That's
livestock.
right. That's exactly right. Yeah. So I sacrificed some of the space I could have used for buildings to just have more farm space, basically. So as you can see here, we got some, we got some sheeps, we got some cows and pigs, and we got some chickens back
Good.
there, and we have a lot of space for different farmables. So we have wheat here, corn, and then the tomatoes over there as well.
Oh, this looks great. So now, Mike, when we're talking about, these types of farmable spaces, obviously, as we discussed previously, the customization options for your freehold are really kind of up to you and what you want to delve into on the processing side of things and how you want to use the space. But players who want to participate in the farming, talk to me a little bit about that system. I mean, the intent, excuse me, to provide this open area space for people to utilize just growing different crop rotations and the livestock, and how does that feed the general processing system?
Yeah, so the farming is going to generally focus on growing crops like this and then dealing with livestock over there like that. But
nice.
generally what you want to do is gather some seeds from either vendor or in the world. You can gather or find some seeds on the open content, and you're going to come to your freehold, plant them, and then depending on what kind of processing level you have and what kind of processing stations or buildings you might have, you might grow crops like a little faster,
Nice.
produce like better crop rotations, and just generally farm things that's unique to farming produce, like compared it to in the open world.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I just got a bunch of wheat. By the way, I apologize, Bucky, on stealing your wheat. But I
No, go
figured
for it.
you
I got
didn't need
plenty. It's harvest season. We got a big crop coming. I need some help getting all the harvest done.
Yeah, it looks super cool.
Another cool thing about farming too, since it has the livestock, is that it kind of feeds directly into hunting and synergizes with animal husbandry. So if you're interested in raising animals, taming animals, farmers will have a use for them.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, animal husbandry has multiple lanes of ways to breed and specialize your creatures, and mounts and pets are one of the more popular ones, but then obviously livestock as well. So not only can you breed your animals for traits such as like movement speed and health and different combat stats, but you also be able to breed them for desirable traits like, fertility, increased harvesting yield, and even increased yield from butchering.
What are you guys doing? Oh my god, that is awesome.
This is
Leave our eggs alone.
Leave
makes
our-
them more comfortable with you taking their eggs away. So
Leave
Helps
our
with
eggs
chicken morale.
alone.
Yeah, they won't peck us if we come with their style here.
Very nice. Very nice. I just got some eggs. Okay, now, one of the other things that we wanted to obviously collect player feedback on, I'm going to open up the inventory just to kind of take a look at the materials resource bag. Talk to me a little bit about how we are implementing resources differently from your general item inventory.
So we're taking an approach from other games, but the idea of resources is gonna have somewhat of a slot base. Instead of having a slot base like traditional MMO, we're gonna look for like a Tetris kind of idea of having different shapes and different stack sizes, kind of like that, to make some interesting choices out in the world, where you have to do inventory management and have a pick and choose depending on like what you have available, what kind of bags you have.
Now, I seem to have kind of run out of space. Maybe I can grab. Do you have any?
Oh yeah, if you want, you can come put some stuff in the chest in the house, or are your bags too
okay.
small, or what's?
Yeah, no, I only have
Yeah.
one bag. It's called a Sanctus Resource bag.
Oh yeah, I got some extra bags for you. Actually, you could take some from my chest.
Oh,
got
this is
some
a,
upgraded
this is a
bag.
nicely decorated home here.
Yeah, that looks good.
Thank
Oh,
you.
you
guys.
have the you have the oh man, I can't remember what we called this, but this was for the pandemic. Everyone who I think registered prior to a certain date during the pandemic, Margaret will know. We granted this item to people, or will be granted to people. That's cool. It's modeled. Look at that. I think Ryan Richmond actually did the modeling for that, and then John Waynick did the implementation. Very cool. That looks awesome.
Yeah, I love it.
Where's the chest I can grab?
Right here by the fireplace.
Oh, okay, sweet. Let me see here. Materials. Oh, okay. All right. So, what do I do here? Just grab this. Let
Yeah, you can just
me-
take them all and swap it out, I think.
I'll equip them. Oh, okay, cool. I have some. Now, this is obviously work in progress UI. This is not the final UI, but this kind of demonstrates the
That's
functionality
interesting.
of the system. Let me go over here. What can I do with these sheep?
You can harvest them for wool. Shoot them.
All right. This is not going to hurt them, is it?
No.
No. Okay.
If you do a good
Hello.
job.
Oh,
Shearing
pretty
is
sheep.
a non-destructive
Pretty
crop.
sheep.
Yes.
Give me your wool.
Yeah.
Oh, it
Hi.
gave me some wool
Hi,
and now it's naked. That's so sad.
It'll grow back.
Oh, how so perfect. That's a good point. So it'll grow back. Talk to me a little bit about kind of, the intent behind the livestock here and the crops as well. Like you're planting and you're placing these livestock on farmable space within your freehold, and then over time they mature and become processable, or how does that work?
Oh yeah, that's pretty much exactly it. Certain things, like for the crops, for example, you need to acquire seeds first, which can be acquired through a number of ways. But once you plant them, you'll have to water them and care for them, and then after a certain point, depending on the crop itself, would be when you can harvest them, and then you can replant them at that point. And then for animals, different animals have different, sort of byproducts they can get. Like, so for example, from the cow, you can milk them and get some fresh milk.
Oh my god. But they have horns. Are these the right cows?
Oh, there's
to milk?
others. There's
Oh,
others down there.
Oh, okay. All right.
There's others.
Okay. Well, let's see. Oh, I got like a little stool. Wow, that's some rapid-paced milking. Holy
Yeah, you know.
smokes. That was crazy. Hold on, let me make sure I got the milk. Oh, we did get the milk. Let me pull it down here. Pull some corn down as well.
Do
Make a
some
little bit of
reorganization
space.
there.
Yeah, kind of just reorganizing things.
Yeah, another sort of interesting thing that you'll see with livestock and other types of things that you can gather is you'll be able to kind of choose the things that you want to gather from it, right? Bucky had mentioned animal byproducts, right? And milk is a byproduct of a cow, and so is beef. So it's up to you, kind of how and when you want to harvest your livestock in certain ways, and same with plants. Maybe you want to take the corn, and maybe you want to cut down the entire corn plant to make room for other crops, and there's different byproducts depending on how you interact with that gatherable. So
Now this is going to be another point of good player feedback. So one, we kind of talked to you and showed you guys a little bit of the systems for planting crops on your freehold, for raising livestock, collecting resources from them. And then the Tetris inventory type system. But this one is more game philosophy / immersion, right? And what you're going to see now, I think, for those of you who are a bit squeamish, if you want to turn away, understandable. But we're going to get some leather. And what
Yep.
else from this guy?
Hide.
Meat. Yeah.
Some,
Yeah,
some meat.
Kind of
and
whatever you'd expect from a pig.
Yep. Bacon.
All right. Well, all right. I apologize, little buddy. I'm super
You had a good
sorry.
long life,
You did have a good long
a
life.
happy life on the farm, and now,
Oh God, go to sleep.
now,
Oh, we got the hide and the meat. But it's, oh, that's sad. Is it? It's just sleeping. Is it tired? That was intensive.
yeah,
For sure. It's sleeping.
It's sleeping. Yeah. Don't worry. Let's go. Yeah.
Nothing to see here.
Oh.
Sorry, little piglets.
Oh no, not the piglets.
Okay.
No,
We'll take good care of you.
no. Let them live a little bit of a
One
life.
day you'll become big, and then we'll.
So guys, that's a great point of player feedback. Talk to us a little bit about how real/immersive do you want it to be, or do you prefer that perhaps the pigs don't die, but rather they just go to sleep? That's a good question, I think, for a lot of people to give their thoughts on. Okay, so now we have. I'm seeing over here. There's another building. Obviously, we have the home here. We went inside a little bit. This other building, talk to me a little bit about that. We talked a little bit in the presentation about the profession buildings and them giving access to workstations. What do we have here?
So this is the artisan building that we talked about, and then these give general benefits to the freehold. It could be profession specific, it could be just general specific, but it also gives you like access to putting down stations like this. So this would be the metalworking station.
Oh, nice. Okay. And I see that this station's pretty intensive, and that's, I think, something we're going to be showing in a future stream, which is all about the crafting process and the recipe acquisition and the tools, but also a little bit of a gameplay layer that Corey, Mike, you guys have been working on with crafting in the future that we're going to show. But this one's all about processing. And talk to me a little bit about, we talked a little bit about what it takes to go into the fuel, to prep the station, to do the processed goods, and then kind of leaving and letting that, process over time. Do you expect that players are going to want to like fully kit out their freeholds with the profession building so they have access to all the stations? What would be the benefit of that?
I think so, right? Like, if players are really interested in investing in processing, right? Freeholds are supposed to kind of give the players the furthest reach up to the highest tiers of processing. So, if you want to, allocate most of your space in your freehold for, processing buildings, processing stations, you could create like kind of your own processing plant or factory, and really sort of have a stranglehold on a market or particular goods. So the freehold is supposed to be free space for players to kind of do whatever they'd like, decorate housing, have businesses, or create a processing empire. So
Cool, very cool. Well, I did get some supplies. Whoops. I did get some supplies. Bucky, do you want me to like put this in the chest or anything, or?
Yeah, you can just empty out and store it here in my chest for now,
Are
so you
these
can go out.
tomato plants?
Oh yeah, that's right. Just forgot to harvest these.
Oh. Let's see. Get some other ones here. Very nice. Aw, some more exploded. Oh no.
Well, you got them at least, right?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we're good. All right, let me go put this inside. Wait, let me make sure I actually did get the tomatoes.
Probably got a full bag at this point, almost.
Did I? Oh, I did get some tomatoes. Okay, there we go. All right,
We
I'm
got
gonna
the
go
hot
put
tub
this
right here.
I'm gonna go put this in for you. Now, you've obviously done a great job with the decorations here on the furniture, and we don't intend furniture to obviously just be visual aspect of the interior, but functional as well. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so obviously we've seen here the chest, right? The chest is a placeable furniture prop that actually increases the storage capacity of your freehold property. But we're going to have a variety of other functional furnitures, like besides just even the artisanship stations. So for example, we have bed over here, which you'll be able to sleep in as well, get some rest experience perhaps. Also, we'll have chairs. Those are just like kind of cosmetic you'll be able to sit in, and but yeah, there'll be a variety of functional prop items as well that'll have actual gameplay uses.
Nice. That's awesome. Let's see. I'm just putting all this stuff into your storage chest, so you have it.
Very nice.
I
Free
see
labor.
I see you have some pictures in here as well.
Yep. That's the picture I commissioned to myself. No, I'm just
Oh, is this it? Is that you?
Yes.
It is actual.
Me in armor.
It's actual Bucky. That is so great.
I think this is your favorite, Steven.
Yes,
Yeah,
the sandals. Oh, that's
classic.
so awesome. That is super cool. Now, obviously, players that we talked a little bit about businesses and how players can kind of stand up different taverns and whatnot. And Bucky, you had stated like one of the reasons why you wanted to have your freehold here in this location was because of some of the access to the rare resources. But there's also some interesting hunting grounds nearby. And, you know, one of the things that is interesting about the freehold system is that it's not just architected for processing, but it can also be a profitable location based on where and what you're providing other players access to from a like drink and food tavern perspective, right?
Yeah, we mentioned it before, like there's business types of buildings that you can build. Some of these could be very region specific, like if there was a hunting ground nearby that is very populated, we could set up a tavern, sell like food buffs and drinks that is really good for XP bonuses or increase to your loot chance or something like that. Whatever that may increase some kind of a benefit to the player that is good business, like I said, would be set up here where you could just take advantage of the populated player area.
That's awesome. That's super cool. I love it. And you were saying, you know, obviously having access to an open world where you're not necessarily restricted to the locations that you can place these freeholds, but allowing the players to kind of place them themselves. Obviously, we are going to block out certain areas that can't be placed, like certain road networks and POIs, but generally the intent is to provide these freeholds as layable plots in the open world. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So as long as you purchase a certificate from the owning node of the land, you'll be able to place it in many places around the node, like just basically anywhere that's not like a you know, dungeon or a point of interest with monsters. You'll be able to place it in a lot of areas. So players will have a lot of freedom in choosing where they want to build their freehold and lay down their plot. So it'll be a big, like obviously here, like you said, I was looking at the, you know, we got the mines over there, we got the point of interest, but we also have this large flat area for a lot of farming.
That's good.
And so it was kind of a good mix for this freehold.
Yeah. Super cool. Love it. Bucky, you have a very cool freehold. You know,
Let's talk a little bit about studio updates. There's
That's good.
one big one that I know folks have been asking about, and are
Yes.
like, is that person going to be on the stream?
no.
Homies, I'm gonna let you know. As someone who was on a live stream and did an AMA my first week starting, that's wild.
Hey, that you were a trooper. You're a trooper. That
I
was great.
downloaded everything and every piece of information I possibly could.
Yeah, so studio update. Some of you might have seen an announcement. We have brought on an absolutely glorious individual by the name of Bill Trost. Funny enough, Bill was the first person I had ever interviewed. John and I ever interviewed for Intrepid Studios. But he joins us as of 2 weeks ago. He has a rich history and a very tremendous amount of experience, having shipped multiple MMOs. And he brings his wealth of knowledge to the team. He's worked with many of the people in our studio over the course of his long tenure as a game developer, and he is currently in the process of catching up to speed as much as possible. So it wasn't quite appropriate for us to invite him on this stream, but I'm sure in a future stream you guys will have an opportunity to meet and listen to Bill and chat with him. So very excited about that.
Yeah, and we've done a few of those where you get to meet and you know, learn more about some of the developers, but we usually like to tie that in with a system that they're working on or some kind of content piece. Otherwise, we also get people who are mad because they're like, show us game. We don't want to hear about this person. So it's finding a balance of like, we are people, but we also are trying to make a product for you and show progression in that. And hopefully you've been seeing that as we move forward. And next month's live stream is also going to be a very long one. So prepare
Oh my
yourself for that.
goodness. Oh my goodness. That you
Yeah.
think this one was
And with that, I think we'll go into our Q&A to wrap things up because we've been holding you downloaded everything. And let's talk a little bit about studio updates. There's one big one that I know folks have been
Really
asking
Googling
about. And
results.
we're like, is that person going to be on the stream?
no,
Homies, I'm going to let you know, as someone who was on a live stream and did an AMA my first week starting, that's wild.
Hey, that you were a trooper. You're a trooper. That
I
was great.
downloaded everything and every piece of information I possibly could.
Yeah, so studio update. Some of you might have seen an announcement. We have brought on an absolutely glorious individual by the name of Bill Trost. Funny enough, Bill was the first person I had ever interviewed. John and I ever interviewed for Intrepid Studios. But he joins us as of 2 weeks ago. He has a rich history and a very tremendous amount of experience, having shipped multiple MMOs. And he brings his wealth of knowledge to the team. He's worked with many of the people in our studio over the course of his long tenure as a game developer, and he is currently in the process of catching up to speed as much as possible. So it wasn't quite appropriate for us to invite him on this stream, but I'm sure in a future stream you guys will have an opportunity to meet and listen to Bill and chat with him. So very excited about that.
Yeah, and we've done a few of those where you get to meet and learn more about some of the developers, but we usually like to tie that in with a system that they're working on or some kind of content piece. Otherwise, we also get people who are mad because they're like, show us game. We don't want to hear about this person. So it's finding a balance of like, we are people, but we also are trying to make a product for you and show progression in that. And hopefully you've been seeing that as we move forward. And next month's live stream is also going to be a very long one. So prepare
Oh my
yourself for that.
goodness. Oh my goodness. That you
Yeah.
think this one was
And with that, I think we'll go into our Q&A to wrap things up because we've been holding
He's
you
got a
all
pretty
as
good
long as we can so far, but we do have a few more questions, and some of them are specifically Freehold related, and others are not. So we'll go through some
I
of
will
those.
just I will s- I will just say that many people are asking for a leak. I'm not going to give a leak, but I am just going to say that next month, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be next month. There's a slight possibility it might be the month after, but next month,
Yeah.
the hint will be send nodes.
Steven.
That's what? No, nodes. Send nodes.
I know.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to leak something from PI meeting. Someone might have said the wrong word at one point during the PI meeting. Calling you out, Roshan. It was so funny. We were all laughing so hard. Anyways, moving on, we've got our questions here. So these were pulled from the forums. Reminder that we do sometimes do these. We might not do one for next month, but we do have a couple Q&As slotted for Stephen outside. We'll see how that goes. But for this one, this is from Songrune, which that's such a beautiful name. Their question is about Freehold plot placement. Will it be possible to choose the direction your freehold is facing and buildings are facing on your plot, particularly when using cosmetics from pre-order packs, or will this already be determined by the plot you choose?
The answer to those questions are yes, yes, and yes. So you can manipulate the orientation of the freehold plot. You can manipulate the orientation of the particular buildings
And items.
And items, correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then
a heavy degree of customization. And by the way, those systems are in place for the furniture placements and the props. It's just pending kind of UI treatments because
that's
right now
good.
it's all program art. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with game development, UI and visual effects and audio
effects.
are often the most taxed teams because they tend to be at the end of each pipeline. So
praise them, and QA. So all four of those teams are like, please give us the thing as early as possible.
And just to give context for why they're typically at the end of the pipeline of development for many systems and or content, is because you want to have all the iteration done for a particular animation or system or whatever before you get to the phase of the audio, visual effects, or the UI.